Okay, tonight, last night, we'll talk a few minutes about security strategies. Security in Windows has kind of been something that people poo-pooed about over the years. Windows 8 is pretty secure. We do some stuff in some of the security classes where we try to infect the Windows 8, and even when you tell it it's okay, sometimes it still won't let you infect it. It comes with a built-in antivirus. It's already there. You don't have to go and buy it. And I was wondering, I was watching an ad, I guess it was for PC-Matic the other day, which has been selling like $150 a year, right? And now they're selling it for $150 for 5 machines for a lifetime. I have no idea what for life is. I don't know if it's for life or for the life of the computer or whatever else. Maybe like Windows, it's for the life of that set of hardware. Don't know. That's something you would have to look at. But those things, you still need to go and occasionally run them. Learn how to secure a Windows workstation. And to me, the way you secure a Windows workstation, don't mess with it. Just leave it alone. I mean, Windows 8 is going to be pretty secure to start with. I mean, most of you guys are using Windows 8 except for Macs and Linux. Have you had any real issues with Windows 8?
I'm on 7.
You're on 7?
Yeah, 7.
All right, so I've been saying 8. 8 and 7 same. 7's the same way. 7 is fairly secure.
I'm going to install Windows 8 on my A system.
I'm on 95.
You get copies of 8.1. You know that. And 8.1, they really fixed all this formerly Metro interface, whatever they're calling it now. It's when you click on the start menu, you get both. You get the icons and you get the start menu. So we're going to secure a Windows workstation. I know we're in 7. Let me back to 7. Except for, honestly, a few changes, 7 and 8, those of you who have gone, work essentially the same way. If you can get the start menu to work for you. Learn how to authenticate to a computer or network using a token, and about other security techniques to protect computer or SOHO Network and its resources. SOHO, small office, home office. Earlier we were talking about wireless, and WPA2 is the one that you want. In an enterprise, and maybe even in the small office, home office, it's WPA2 Enterprise uses a separate authentication server. It doesn't use the pre-shared key or the passphrase or whatever we're going to call it now, where you type in the passphrase or the PIN number or whatever else. You actually go to, and in the wireless course that we're having, and that one's still plugged in back there because it now is set up so that it authenticates through an Active Directory database and a radius server. You have to have other stuff available, other resources available, but you make it more secure. WPA2 was an improvement over WEP. WPA2 is an improvement over WPA. It uses the AES, which is the latest approved encryption protocol. And whatever we're going to use for authentication, and in that one's case we use extensible authentication protocol. It uses a radius server. How to recognize, remove, and protect against malicious software. Malware is probably a free one and you can pay for it and it'll become automatic and it'll protect you, but it's one that you should run occasionally. It will typically find the things that other ones won't. You might want to get SpyBot or something like that to get rid of all of the garbage spyware stuff. That's probably not going to affect you a whole lot, but just it's there.
SpyBot has gotten worse, in my opinion.
It may have gotten worse, but it still does find stuff. And there are other ones. There are other spyware detectors. Be careful where you go, though, because some of these free spyware detectors are actually spyware.
Yeah. They'll find you, all right.
Well, yeah. The ones I love, oh, yeah, send us $35 and ransomware. As soon as $35, we'll give you your computer back. That stuff's hard to get rid of, if you get it. 2 goals: protect resources, not to interfere with the function of the system. And when we're securing something, security, we talked about security and convenience. Secure and convenient don't really fit together.
Kind of like airport security.
Kind of like airport security. That's one of the things that, well, airport security, you can walk over here and buy a ticket and get on an airplane, right? So you want to go flying on Air Force One, how long is it going to take you to get that ticket?
You may never get one.
You may never get one, but it's secure, Over at the airport, it's fairly secure, but it has some form of security, but not nearly as secure. Secure is not typically going to be convenient.
This weekend, a 72-year-old man tried to get on a plane with a gun.
Yeah, there's lots of that happens, but secure, we're not talking about that, we're talking about secure and convenience. It's more inconvenient to go to an airport now than it was when I was young, but it's still more secure. More secure. Yeah, but they have propellers. Still more secure. I used to fly on one, TTA, the Trans-Texas Airlines. They call it Treetop Airline, and you could actually sit on that thing and watch the rivets pop out of the wing in rough weather. So, okay, but yeah, all I had to do is walk up to the gate. Now you got to go through some screening. If you're on Air Force One, you got to go through a whole lot more screening. They're going to start 6 months or so back and start looking at you. And the other thing we don't want to do is to not interfere with the functions of the system. Some of the things that you have in here are inconvenient for you. You can't change a bunch of stuff. Sometimes there are things you'd like to do. I want to install this, I want to install that. There's a reason that you don't want your users to do those things. Layer 2 security, and I know this is a separate topic, but can people just plug into your network? You don't want that to happen either. Wireless, we talk about wireless security and how to hack wireless, and that's kind of the topic of I can do this or I can do that. Because you don't ever know, in this SOHO office that we're talking about is probably going to be on a wireless network. Because the SOHO routers are basically the same ones that you and I buy. Small office, home office, which is also just the more expensive ones, but they're probably going to have 4 ports or something like that.
What if you put a password on your router?
You put a password on your router, you can do that, sure. How long is it going to, how good's the password?
Rainbow tables.
Rainbow tables. How long is it going to take somebody to crack that password? How often do you change that password? The second issue with it is how many users you got. Oh, let's say I got 100 users. And I put this good passphrase. That's a real good passphrase, right? And I distribute it to my 100 users. How long is it going to be before 105 people have it?
Do they really need about 25 minutes?
Huh?
Yeah, I guess.
When you connect to a wireless access point, you're actually, in most cases, except when we get to these enterprise authentication protocols, you're authenticating the device, not the user. Because all you got to do is put the passphrase in the computer, right? And you're in. Nobody ever asked who you were, did they? In the enterprise one, the one I was talking about, we've got set up back here using a radius server. It asks you to put in your, in this case, it's an Active Directory, but you would be asked to put in your network username and password. So we're authenticating you and not the computer. So, I mean, and that's the problem with the symmetric, which everybody's got the same passphrase, password, is key control. I mean, if you gave it to 100 people, how long do you think it would take before 105 people had it? You can't tell who's logging in when, because, well, you kind of can, you kind of can't, because All these machines are going to have MAC addresses, and we could keep track that way, but it is much more difficult. If you use an enterprise level authentication protocol, it's going to work a whole lot. Not a whole lot, well, a whole lot better for controlling who, not what, gets on your network. Sometimes the goals are in conflict, and secure and convenient does not equal convenient, typically. Security is probably going to be inconvenient. I'll go back to my Linux guy here. When you try to do something in Linux, in Windows it pops up and says, did you do this? And you click OK, right? What do you do in Linux?
You just do it.
You just do it? Boy, mine just says, hey, put in some credentials here.
Yeah.
Put in the super user's credential. Put in root's credentials.
That or it just doesn't work.
That or it just doesn't work. Is that more secure? You can configure Windows to do the same thing, by the way. The default is that you run it as an administrator. All you have to say is OK.
Two-factor.
The problem with that is,
I was going to say two-factor authentication is the biggest pain in the world.
Two-factor or multi-factor, you can't have more than that. You can have more than two, but yeah. Multi-factor authentication, yeah, it's kind of a pain, but it's more secure. So what are we going to do? We want to set this thing up so that we protect the resources, we protect the stuff that's on the network, the databases, and it's okay unless it's your Social Security that somebody's stealing, right? Then it's a real problem. But if somebody's stealing my Social Security, you don't really care.
They don't want mine.
You say they don't want yours. I was reading this, why would people steal yours if you don't have anything? So, they're not going to get anything. But Jane stole Janet's, and we'll just make up some names here, Social Security number. And Jane got arrested, and they said, what's your name, Janet?
Oh. Yeah.
So now, Janet's got a police record, and Jane, who got arrested, doesn't. Yes.
A couple of days ago when I went to log into Facebook to do something for my family, it says that I was over in Japan a couple of days ago using Google Chrome.
Yeah. So you really do have to check those things out. People try that, and the Facebooks and the Googles of the world try to monitor that, and they monitor patterns.
What kind of Thanksgiving did the Japanese have?
Well, but things like that. I have one. Well, it happened to me, and I don't really have. I had a Facebook account by accident, but I disabled. Well, the story is some guy in Kentucky that has the same name as me was running for office and created a Facebook page and put my Gmail address in. So I get this email that says, activate your Facebook account. So I told him, I tried to call him. I hunted him down, looked him up, found him, who it had to be on the internet. They never called me back, so I put a password on it. And then something like that happened is I got an email that said that somebody from Korea, I think this one was trying to access your, is that you? No, so I just disabled it, so I don't have to worry about that. But
someone made a fake profile of my grandma. They used her pictures, they used her
they,
name.
that happened. Well,
started messaging people.
Yeah, because they want to be anonymous or things. I mean, there are lots of reasons that people may want your identity.
Grandson, I need some money.
It was weird.
Well, that grandson. That's usually a phone call sort of things. But can you see that protecting resources and not interfering with the functions can sometimes be in conflict? How secure do you want to be? How inconvenient can you do? And what you've got to do is kind of strike a balance between security and convenience. Authentication, authorization, I think we said these before. Authentication is who you prove who you are. Authorization, what you can get to. And my example here is always, can you guys get to the laser color printer? Say, well, I can't either, because I'm not authorized. But I can get on the network that it's on because I can authenticate. But authentication is proving who you are. Authorization is what you can do. And in the AAA accounting is when we keep logs and keep a record of what you did. Assign a password to each account created. Best to give the ability to change the password. And if you'll notice in there, one of the things is don't allow the users to change their passwords, which I don't know is such a great idea unless you really like to reset passwords. What you want to do is set it up so that they have to have a certain complexity of passwords. Yes?
I think the reason for that would be so that as an admin you can go in and random check.
Oh, I understand what the reason is, but let's say you've got 500 users and you say that they have to change their passwords every 30 days.
They back up the system.
So how many passwords are you going to be changing a day? Plus those that forgot it. And that's another one that's an issue because we have these things, the password reset programs, where you have all these questions that you got to answer. How many people know the answers to those already?
I forgot half of mine.
Huh?
I forgot half of mine.
Forgot half of them, but keep in mind that when you answer those questions, they don't have to be true. Well, you know what the key to that is? To write that stuff down and keep it secure someplace. There are programs out there that are protected, and all you have to have is the password to the protection program. I know, but if you ever need that password, it's a real pain if you don't remember all of that stuff. Control how users log on. Normally the welcome screen that starts up, you can make it more secure. The Ctrl+Alt+Delete is really where you want to go, and if you put a machine on a network in a domain, it's going to do that. When you do Ctrl+Alt+Delete, it disables an awful lot of stuff so that people shouldn't, even if they have a keystroke logger, shouldn't be able to get the password, username and password from there. A couple of other things. The default is to show the name of the last user that's logged on. Well, if you know a username, you've got half the problem, right? Half the problem is solved. All you got to do now is get a brute force, get a rainbow tables, and crack the password. But we have other ways to secure that, don't we? In a policy?
That's one of the questions too, I just remembered.
What's that?
Administrator wants to keep that from happening, where's he got to change?
Account lockout.
Yeah.
Account lockout says that if you miss your password so many times, we're going to lock your account for a certain amount of
I think
time.
it was it, not directory permissions?
It's a local security policy.
Yeah, that's what it was.
It's all local security policy. Did you hear what he said? That's when that you may be asked a question about something like that. So you do account lockout that says if you miss the password so many times, it locks the account for whatever amount of time. And you can make it lock the account until you come over. The last job that I had in the Navy, we handled some fairly highly classified material on computers, and if you got your account locked out, you had to go over to IT and say, I'm here, would you reset my password because I screwed up?
Yeah, the SCI.
So what kind of stuff was it?
That's that top secret.
TS, top secret. Actually, at the time I think it was secret, but yeah, I did have that clearance at one time. Yes, you had to go prove who you were before they would reset your password. You can do that too, depending on how you configure this thing. What you can do, configure it if you miss it 5 times in 20 minutes, it's going to be locked for 20 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever. What this does is slows down the brute force attack so that John can't crack that in 17 minutes, 27 minutes, what is it?
25 minutes.
20, 25, 27 minutes, whatever it is with rainbow tables. So if every 5 times we lock it for 20 minutes, that's going to extend the amount of time it takes. All this stuff that you do with security, and if you lock it, it's not really secure. It's not really convenient if you can't get in. If you're at home and you mess up and you lock yourself out. We do have account lockout configured here, but it only locks you out for, I don't know, 5 minutes or something like that. We used to do it for more until we got a lot of non-technical students around. But Ctrl+Alt+Delete is going to make your logon more secure. This one, and I want to jump over. This one is the way you make it, and I'll admit I did it because my wife was driving me crazy with it. The way you make your home machine less secure. How's that? All I want to do is go to a virtual machine quickly here. And I've already typed in the net PL whiz, and it brought up this window. When I go into this window, I have the option here that says users must enter a username and password to use this computer. If I don't want to have to type in my username and password every time I log on to my home computer, when you put it on a domain, this goes away. Then I can pick a user that I want and uncheck this thing and apply, and it'll automatically log me in. Which is kind of convenient at home if you don't really have anybody that you think is going to be trying to hack into it, because you can set your computer up where your BIOS starts the machine and Windows will go all the way in, not just get to the startup screen. So that one is something that's a little different. What did I do? I turned that off. I didn't really mean to do that. Here's where we were.
Like the rainbow tables people want you to hack everybody just to increase security.
They don't want you to hack. Penetration testing.
That's, well, you know, what I mean.
Okay, let's go back to hacking and let's see if we can get some of this terminology sorted out. Hackers are good guys. Hackers don't get into somebody else's properties. Those are crackers, criminal hackers. Hackers, ethical hackers, and then some people say, well, that's kind of, how can you be an ethical hacker? Because you get permission. You get permission before you do anything.
The original term of a hacker was
somebody with knowledge that wanted to share their knowledge. So, penetration testing, all the stuff that you have is there, but would rainbow tables do me any good if I had my account lockout set so that if you did that 5 times, I locked it out until you came and said I locked my account out? Would rainbow tables do you any good then? No. In a brute force attack. All of these things, and that's why I say, yes, we're going to show you some stuff, but what they're designed for is so that you can protect your network. Is somebody going to be trying to hack you? Yep. If you get a log on a router, and most of the home routers don't really have a lot of logging, but run a log and see how many people do a scan against your IP address on a daily basis. Oh, maybe thousands of them. What are they looking for? Open ports. Port 21 is a good one to be opened. 3389, remote desktop. Those are the kinds of things that they're looking for. But this is the user accounts when we do this thing, making user accounts advanced or whatever else. You can change the way users log on to Windows, and the default, again, is when you get the little picture and you click on the picture and say log in. You really want to use the Ctrl+Alt+Delete in order to do that. Locking a workstation. This is something that took me, I didn't know for a long time. Ctrl+Alt+Delete, L, Windows key and L will lock the workstation.
I'm pretty sure one of your labs showed.
Yeah, that could be, yeah. The labs, yeah. This is just, but it's just kind of a quick dirty, because you do usually you Ctrl+Alt+Delete and L or something like that. Windows key and L lock the workstation.
I just tried it.
It worked good, didn't it?
Much quicker than Ctrl+Delete, wait,
Yes.
enter.
Yes.
Or mouse
Yes.
over to lock computer.
Yeah, clicks lock this computer to unlock, enter the password, and we want to do that. And you want to set it up that way, yes.
With the WPS stuff, this is a nice little off topic, but is there actually a button for some computers you can just press?
For what?
Like, I don't know, it was talking about you can just press a button on your keyboard or on computers that are made, for that.
For what?
Automatically type
What are we talking about?
For the WPS?
WPA is something that's on the router. That's on the.
I'm talking about the Wi-Fi protected.
Yeah, that's on the router.
Yeah.
That's on the router. No. The button that you push is on the router, and it sets up the security on the router, and then you have to match it from the workstation.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Okay. But they talk to each other. I personally think it's confusing, and I'd much rather just go in and put a key in. I mean, it is something that all you got to do is go into it and check the checkbox as WPA and put in a pre-shared key, right? Put in a passphrase. Or you can go through that whole thing, take 20 minutes or whatever it takes to do WPS.
Yeah, but what happened to me is it just had this real nice shiny button.
And what does this do?
And it said, like, Wi-Fi security. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
No,
Dexter, use that voice?
In the accounts that are created, and there are more than there used to be. Used to be you got 2. But you do have a guest account is disabled by default. The problem with the guest account is disabled by default, but it has no password. So if somebody's able to enable it, it will be an account without a password. Opinion here, you should enable that account, put a password on, and then disable it again. And the user administrator in Windows 7 is now disabled. The first user has administrative authority, but doesn't run with that. Reset password, the netpl whiz command or control panel to reset the password, you can go in and do that. And if you're using Active Directory, you go into the account, right-click on it, reset password, and do those things. Create strong passwords. What's a strong password?
Extra characters.
Well,
Capital letters, random. If you don't
random. We have complex passwords.
letters, don't use dictionary words.
Don't use dictionary words.
Passphrase, 46 characters long, and includes all that.
Yeah, we have complex passwords, which in a complex password, and you have 4 things you can do on the keyboard: uppercase letters, lowercase letters, numbers, and special characters. You should, and if you do some of these, look at some of these hash cracking programs. If you have special characters, it dramatically increases the amount of time, except for rainbow tables. It increases the amount of time that is required to do this. I got a piece of software called KeyPass, which you can use to store your passwords, and you have to know the password KeyPass, and then you can get the rest of them. But it will generate passwords for you, and it'll generate things like. Oh yeah, I know what I forgot. I forgot to turn the pen back on.
Kaspersky has a password manager I've used for years. I have encrypted files that I don't even know the password to.
Yeah, encrypted files that you don't know the password to is pretty tough.
No, the password manager, as long as I remember how to get in password manager.
Oh yeah, and you can copy and paste them to WordPad.
That's what I use.
But you might get a password like, something else. All sorts of weird characters, but those are more difficult to guess, because if you do a password attack on these things and do a dictionary attack, and there are dictionaries that you can download from the internet. I was looking again at this WPA, that they gave a link to go get one that's 13 gig dictionary. That's a text file. It says compressed to 4 gig that you can download it. But if you get those things, dictionary attacks go relatively quickly. If somebody's got to go into a brute force attack, those take much longer to do. 8 or more characters. The reason you want 8 or more characters, when a password cracker tries to crack a password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, it segments it, and it works on half of it at a time. If this half is blank, it's always going to have the same hash. The blank will always have the same hash in Windows. At least one symbol, and the 2nd through the 6th positions. The symbols, and one of the ones that it's not enough characters, is it? Anyway, if put your symbols in something that means this one's I hate DNS. When you get to Active Directory, you'll learn how to hate it too. 8 or more characters, use those things. Don't use consecutive letters because when you look into hashes, that's going to make it easier. Encrypted file system. I think we talked about that the last block, didn't we? Right-click encrypted. The encrypting file system works pretty well. What it does is uses a symmetric key. And that's what the things I was saying you can't do, right? What it does is it creates a symmetric key to encrypt the document with. And then encrypts the symmetric key with an asymmetric key. And then stores the key in the document. Well, it makes it a lot quicker. Symmetric keys are up to, and I don't remember the real world, but it's about 1,000 times faster than asymmetric keys. So what you really want to use for your document encryption and decryption is a symmetric key when we do those things. Encrypting file system works pretty well. You can share encrypted documents, which you didn't used to be able to do, not encrypted folders, but encrypted documents. But to do that, the user that you're sharing it to has to encrypt a document to create a certificate on the server to do those. Firewall settings. A router can serve as a hardware firewall. The firewalls themselves, and you'll look at this more in security, how to configure the ports, but remember what we're doing is keeping people from connecting. That's the purpose of a firewall, right? Is to keep somebody from initiating a contact. It's kind of like the locks in your house. What's the purpose of the locks on your front door? But who comes in? Can you control who goes out? I remember one time my parents came to visit us when we were in Norfolk, and the back door had this deadbolt that had a key on both sides. You know, you had to use a key on both sides. And they were trying to leave early, and they'd come down, and they're sitting in the living room waiting to leave. Couldn't sneak out. So firewalls can control things in both directions, and in fact, you may want to control things in both directions. Okay, got out the front door. But firewalls are both, typically we're going to have a hardware firewall for the corporate firewall, and then the individual machines may or may not be running a firewall. That's going to be something that's really up to you. A decision that you have to make. Do you want to or not? And this is another one. Is it convenient? Not really. Is it safe? Much safer. What that does is, if one of the machines in your network gets infected, it can't connect to the others and infect them. Hopefully you'll have other things that are going to keep that from happening when you do that. Personal firewall, the Windows firewall, nice pictures there. Group policy controls what users can do with the system. You can set up policies on your machine at home. You can set up local policies, local security policy. The group policy itself is probably going to be a function of Active Directory, large scale. The only difference between the policies that you do on your computer and the policies that get applied by Active Directory is how many machines it applies to. The one you do on your local computer applies to one machine. The one that we do in Active Directory applies to 300 machines. All of the machines that are a member of that domain. But the policies are the same. The same security settings, the same security policies, the same everything are all going to be there. BitLocker, if we beat BitLocker to death, what does BitLocker do?
Store stuff for you.
What does BitLocker do?
That's what a folder does, too.
What does BitLocker do?
It encrypts.
Encrypts the entire hard drive.
It does that.
And we need a TPM module. We have to have a key to decrypt it. So that if somebody steals your hard drive with all of your really important stuff on it and puts it in another machine, it won't work because they don't have the decryption key. The issue with this is if it fails, you have an encrypted hard drive.
I've done that.
A nice paperweight. Actually, you can always blow it away and reformat
I
it.
had to fix master boot record years ago when I first started using encryption, but I don't know how to do that.
Yeah, because it unencrypted it won't boot because it goes fixed boot. But if you're going to do any kind of maintenance on these things, decrypt it before you do that, and then encrypt it again.
Now, if you use the USB drive, does that also mean if they have your hard drive but they don't have the USB drive, they still can't?
Correct. Yeah. If you don't have the TPM module, which is a part of the BIOS that stores the encryption key, you can use a flash drive to store that key, and you have to put the flash drive in when you boot the machine in order to get the key to do the decryption. But like you said, if they stole the hard drive, then you'd have to have both.
TrueCrypt has something similar.
Yeah, TrueCrypt is another one. And if you just want to, what TrueCrypt does is creates a little vault area and you don't have to encrypt the entire hard drive.
But you can.
But you can.
I did on mine.
You can or you cannot. But TrueCrypt is something that you may want to look at if you want to just encrypt certain files. Or you could use the encrypting file system also for that.
The key and put it on many different things.
You can put it on a flash drive. If you put it on a flash drive, you can copy it. Keys can be exported.
Yeah. I have mine on 2 or 3.
And you should always have a backup.
I put one of my
We're talking about encrypting file system, if you encrypt files and we talk about getting a key, if your profile gets deleted, guess what just went along with your profile?
Your key.
Your encryption key. So you should be sure that if you make any of these keys, you export them, store them on a flash drive, floppy drive, Dropbox, if you trust Dropbox to put it out there, or anything else. But you should back all of your keys up.
Name the file encryption key.
Encryption keys, yeah, or something like that. This is biosecurity. Power on passwords. We looked at all these. We looked at all these in the first part. Power on passwords. If you want to do that, set up passwords. Back to some of the security stuff. We've talked about using tools, and if we can boot to get physical access to a machine, you can do a whole lot more to it than you can from remotely. But the BIOS is where you're going to configure it to not allow those things to happen. So you need to start in the security world, one with locks on the door, and then how do you have the BIOS configured? Can somebody boot to a flash drive? If they can't, then that eliminates a number of your problems. Off-crack or something like that will crack the passwords on the machine. Securely authenticate users in large numbers, physically protect. I think we probably actually covered some of these things. Smart cards. What is a smart card? One that talks to you?
No, it's authentication information.
What? Yeah. Well, what's actually on it?
Is that one where they can slide on the keyboard?
Yeah.
I've seen those.
What's actually on it? It's just an authentication certificate, isn't
The
it?
VA uses those.
It's a certificate. And these other things are the variations. These are all variations of this thing. They basically do the same thing. We have one-time passwords, which are kind of neat to have. One-time password's got to be synced with the key fob or whatever that you have, so that it'll give you a series of numbers that are good for like a minute, 2 minutes, or something like that. Yeah, those all have to be, and this is what these things do. Such as a secure ID, except remember RSA had some issues a few months ago, used to authenticate a new user gaining access to a secure network. It gives you basically a PIN number that you would type in. You'd have this thing, and the server would have the same PIN number for you at the same time. You obviously have to have other software in order to make these things work. Smart cards slide in, kind of like credit cards, a pseudo smart card, and hopefully they're going to make them smarter when they put the chips on them. Smart card readers, these and biometric data. The biometric devices, although they aren't cheap, are getting cheaper over the course of time. These are going to be the best, right? So in the authentication world, we have basically 3 ways to authenticate. One is something you know. Was this on it? Something you know, username and password. Something you have, smart card, key fob. Something that you are, fingerprint, handprint, retinal scan, something like that.
Actually, they did ask you to pick an example of digital security, and biometrics was one of the answers. It's kind of confusing because biometrics sort of is digital, but it's not what they were looking for.
Yeah.
They're talking about the username password.
But yeah, something you know, something you have, and something you are. And typically we use the username and password. True? To set these things up. Single factor or multi-factor authentication. Physical security. Physical security is a pretty big deal. It really starts with physical security. Because if we go back to, okay, I set the BIOS up so that you can't boot to a flash drive. If I can get to the machine, I can reset that BIOS, can I? Then I can boot to the flash drive. But if the door's locked and I can't get into the room to reset it, then I can't do that. And if you look on the back of these machines, they got little spots here to get to put locks on the cases. These may seem like overkill, and in some instances they are overkill. In some instances they're not overkill. So how much security do you need? It really is. I mean, these rooms, originally they said, doors locked and lights off. To me, that's silly. So what you usually wound up with was the door open and the lights off. But the lights should be on. How much does it cost to run fluorescent lights? I mean, it's a pretty small cost for. It would make somebody less likely to try to do something with people walking around than if the lights were off. Those are the kinds of things that you think about when you do these things. Data destruction. How many of you have shredders at home? You haven't been watching those commercials, have you? Where the guys picking up the stuff? What do you really need to steal somebody's identity? Well, we got Matt's grandmother's profile's been stolen.
I mean, it depends on what you're trying to use it for.
Depends on what you're trying to use it for.
Some things you only need their name, their address,
Name,
telephone.
name, address, Birthday's one of those big things.
Social.
You may or may not need the social.
Really, the only time I've ever used my social would be for applying for something.
Yeah. Because you have to prove that's a law now that they have to get your social before you go for a job.
Other information you get into somebody's credit report and start.
You may not or may not need that social. But what if you had a bill out there and somebody wanted to? I said you want to. I was reading a book, and the guy had a fire and burned up everything and destroyed his cell phone. And he wanted to get his cell phone activated. They said, you need some identification for a cell phone. He didn't have any because it got burned up. But in his car, he had a cell phone bill. So he took didn't have any money. So he took his cell phone bill to the cell phone company. Oh, okay. Sometimes when you go to sign up for water or something like that, electricity, they may want a bill.
Other bills.
Or another bill. Or a school district. If you try to put your child into a school district, what do they want? A bill's perfectly fine. So some of those things that we throw away, although not seemingly useful at the time, may be. Really good hackers don't expect things to happen in 15 or 20 minutes, or an hour, or a week, or sometimes a month or a year. Sometimes they'll be planning this thing and doing surveillance for a year or more before they actually make the attack. So all of those little bits of information that are laying out there can mount up to something significant or not. Paper shredder, overwrite data on the device. Hard drives, typically what they do, and people that give us computers will normally not provide the hard drives. There are softwares, and I think CCleaner now will do the CIA or NSA level overwrite of the data. But you need to be careful of those things. And you can't. There are hard drive shredders, and that's what a lot of people, big companies use, are hard drive shredders to do these things. Magnetic devices use a degausser. It's going to make it go away forever. Permanent magnet on it. Because you don't really care if it's any, at this point you don't care if it's any, if you cared if it was any good, you'd put it in another machine and format it and use it in your own company. But if they're going to go away, be sure that stuff is gone away. Solid state devices, it's a secure erase utility for those things. And here we have, speaking of hard drive shredders, picture of a hard drive shredder. I bet they're really loud too. But you want to make them go away. Educate users. This is probably the most difficult thing. One of the reasons the most difficult thing is because the threat is continuously changing. The basics, shoulder surfing. What's shoulder surfing?
Somebody looking over your shoulder.
So while you're typing in your password. Just watch, right? What about tailgating, Neil? He's playing Hearts or Solitaire or something.
That's kind of hard too, because you want to be, friendly and nice. Hold the door.
Hold the door! Yeah. It's like these guys are doing penetration testing, and they were driving up to the building to do penetration testing, and they said, oh, that loading dock's wide open. So they go in through the loading dock, go up to the director of IT's office, go into the office, call from his office down to IT and say, this is the director, and I need to have my password reset right now. And it's really important. And they did it. And they stole a bunch of stuff, and they said that these guys even gave them the bucket to carry the stuff that they stole out with.
Wow. Sounds like a good plan to me.
What is tailgating? You want to be nice and hold the door. How do you prevent tailgating?
One person at a time.
One person at a time. This door in the back, if it were set up with locks, would be a perfect kind of space, wouldn't it? Because you get somebody in there, in that space.
I forget what that's called.
Yeah. I like airlocks. You ever watch Get Smart?
Yeah.
That's where he got caught, right?
Yeah.
Did y'all have the CPS ventilation system for biological attack? Started doing that to get from the outside to the inside. You had to go through 2 doors where you could lock the outside.
Yeah. It's called an airlock. It's not an airlock. It's a lock. It's a lock, yeah.
Kind of like your parents stuck in the downstairs trying to get out.
Kind of like that, huh? But tailgating is when somebody follows you through someplace that they're not supposed to be. Again, my last job in the Navy, we had these buildings set up. We were over here, and there was a building here, and the parking lot's out here. Well, guess where everybody wanted to go? Through their building. But they had cipher locks. And you know how long it took before everybody knew that cipher lock? Pre-shared key, right? Same thing. Or you just wait till one of their guys goes in and just go right behind them. They hold the door for you. And these are in secure government buildings.
You got a uniform on, you know.
You got a uniform on. We're all in the same military.
Stolen valor.
Yeah. But tailgating, they stopped this at, you ever been on a subway? When you go up to pay the subway, what do you got? What do you think? You got turnstile. Is that going to stop tailgating?
No, there's hop over.
You can hop over, but that's not tailgating. That's hopping over. Tailgating is when, if you went into a secure space, I followed you in the open door. I didn't have a badge, or I didn't have a badge to get in that area. Those are physical security. Social engineering. How many times have you gotten these, oh, this is happening, that's happening?
First thing I do is look it up.
Check it out, check it out. Some of those things, I love the ones that say, delete this file. They said, oh, Microsoft's put out this alert and you got to delete this file. And if you could delete that file, it probably would make Windows not work.
Have you fixed this? Delete System 32.
Yeah, delete System 32. Probably won't let you do it.
Tailgates is giving away free copies of Windows.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of things, but are they real? And one of the ways to attack is you get these and send this to everybody in your address list because it's really important. What are we doing now? We're creating a denial of service attack on the email servers. If everybody's doing that, that was one of the first ones way back when. Is IBM got crashed. There was a Christmas. There was a Christmas.
Forward this and 10,000 people.
Yeah. 10,000 people sign up. Laptop. I don't remember the number, but it's tens of thousands of laptops a year get left in airports. I don't have that kind of money. I don't know about you. But if people are traveling, it's not their laptop. How concerned are they?
I did read that you should take the hard drive out before you go.
Take the hard drive out.
And mail it to
Yeah.
wherever you're going.
Yeah. It's the secure stuff. Yeah, and if something does, because if you lose that and it's encrypted, guess what? Encryption key's already there. Depends on, again, how secure do you need to be. And that's something that's going to be a decision, a policy decision for the company. Malicious software, malware, grayware, annoying, unwanted programs. You never get these, right? Put this on. They're getting really tricky now, aren't they? You put on a program and they want you to accept 3 or 4 different times. You got to watch what you're accepting, because what you're accepting is probably the grayware or the malware. Well, just decline, and then you'll finally get to, now you're going to install the software. But be sure you read what you're agreeing to when you do these things. Viruses, and these are the kinds of things that, at least security, what the difference between a virus and a worm. boot sector virus. A virus replicates by attaching. A virus has to have some help.
That was one of the questions, the difference between a virus and a rootkit.
Between a virus and a rootkit. Boot sector virus hides in the master boot record. A rootkit disguises itself as something else, I think. Does that sound right?
To give elevated privileges.
Elevated privileges. There are rootkit detection programs which you should run occasionally. Who is the most famous for installing a rootkit on machines? Sony? Yep. Yep. Digital rights management so that you couldn't make copies of the CDs that you bought from them. They install a rootkit. Kind of tricky, and you probably something to agreeing with one of their whatevers because you had to probably allow it to happen, but those things. Adware, unwanted pop-up ads. I don't know that we're ever going to make them go away.
I don't have those much anymore.
Pop-ups not so much because they're all in the web pages now.
Well, that and Explorer, you can block them.
Adblock Plus, there are a number of programs that will block them. Except now they got some of the web pages that won't work unless you look at the ads. So spyware collects personal information. This is so that they can target those ads to you, and hopefully you'll click on them, huh? That's how Google makes their money. It's how a lot of people make their money. Keylogger. These are insidious devices. If I were going to install a keylogger, who do you think I would have do it for me? Person using the machine? Nah. Why would they do it for me? I'm going to spy on them.
Oh, okay, I thought you were on the spyware.
Who gets unsupervised access to the entire building? How about the cleaning crew?
Oh, that's right,
janitorial staff. Man, you slip them $20, you think they'd plug in a little USB drive for you in the director's office? Look at the back of the computer occasionally.
So even with the keyboard going in,
You put it in and then the keyboard goes right into it. And these things can record up to like 6 months worth of information. And they can email it to you on a daily basis.
There's software that'll do that too.
There's software to do that too. What's the problem with the software? Keystroke loggers. Control-Alt-Delete kills them, but if we're typing other things, and you've done that, we've done the keystroke loggers.
You got to be able to install it on the machine.
On the machine, what about...
Of course, you could do it maybe remotely, but you'd have to be able to get in first.
What about the antivirus? Will it find it? Typically. Some of the better ones. Better keylogger, better antivirus.
I helped an undercover person use it.
Yeah, they may or may not work. The hardware ones are really very small, very innocuous. You really need to look at the back of some of these machines occasionally. Worm program copies itself through a network, and the worm copies itself, and remember the virus needed help. The virus attached itself to something else. Overloads the network. Trojans are named after the Trojan horse. Where they brought it, pulled it in, right, and then the army got out and attacked them. A Trojan looks like something and acts like something else. It appears to be a good guy and is a bad guy. We did the Trojan, didn't we?
Yeah.
Where we wrapped what? Like, we wrapped solitaire with a virus. So you played solitaire, and as you played solitaire, it installed the Trojan stuff. Yeah. How do you think they're doing that? How do you think this stuff's getting on your machine? And it pops up and says, "You want to do this?" And you say, "Oh yeah." Oh yeah. Did you start this? Sure, I started that solitaire game. Remember, that only pops up for things that are trying to make changes to your hard drive. Rootkit, here we go. Virus that loads itself before the operating system boot is complete, which means that your antivirus program probably ain't going to work so good here. You need to run a rootkit finding software, and you can find them with your friend and mine, Google. It says a hack can hijack internal Windows components. What it does is conceals what is going on, and it can become part of the operating system, part of the system itself. Step-by-step attack plan. I'm probably going to just click through here. Identify malware symptoms, pop-up ads, system slows down, la-da-da-da-da-da. My system's running really, that's what all the commercials say, right, for the antivirus softwares. System slows down. Malware symptoms, the operating system begins to boot, hangs before getting to the desktop. You get email messages telling you that you have sent someone spam or an infected message. My wife's got a bunch of friends that apparently, I don't know what they do, but we get all sorts of stuff from some of our friends that have all sorts of good deals for you. And they typically conceal this by making it an HTML page. You need to configure your email clients so that they don't show you the HTML, they show you the script. You can see where all those links are.
I've had PayPal or fake PayPal.
Oh, I have lots of fake PayPals. Your account's been disabled. Send us your user. Oh, I get them from Cox Cable. I got one from Cox the other night. We have protected your account, but we need all this information, or we're going to disable it. Okay. Okay, go ahead. It's just like PayPal. Yeah, they're sure. You can't get rid of a PayPal account. You think they're going to disable it? Have you ever tried to get rid of one? You can't give it away. You can't get rid of it.
It's like AIDS. It's there.
Quarantine the infected system, prevent the spreading. If you have something on a machine, the first thing you need to do is disconnect it from the network. Will it spread? That happened to us one time. Guy in IT was working on an unprotected machine, just getting it on the system, getting it on the network. And I was running a Windows, this was a Windows 2000 class, and of all the years I've been doing this, the only time we ever got a virus on one of these machines without an antivirus. The whole room got infected in, probably 8-9 seconds.
Wow.
So these things go fast. If you can get it isolated, get it unplugged, unplug it. They do go pretty fast. Sometimes you can't get rid of them in regular mode. You may actually go into safe mode. I've actually had to go into safe mode command prompt to get rid of things, because Windows won't delete an open file. So if the virus is running, that's why a lot of times it'll run it and say, oh, we're almost done, and we'll finish up when you restart the system. And that's when it actually takes it off. Look at the startup. See if there's anything odd in the startup that you don't recognize. MS-config. The program list, MS-config. Yeah, we look at MS-config. CCleaner's got one that looks at the startups. MS-config. Look in there, see if there's something like you don't know. The ones that always make me curious are the ones that don't have a manufacturer. Some of them are legitimate, and some of them aren't legitimate. Running antivirus software, a whole bunch. There's a lot of them that are free. Microsoft has a free one. It's okay. It doesn't come out at the top end, but it doesn't come out at the bottom end of the antiviruses. I like, and I think that some of you have used Malwarebytes. Malwarebytes usually is pretty effective. It has a free version and a paid version. Bitdefender? Bitdefender's a good one too, yeah, it's here. Most of these things have freeware versions, and there's Malwarebytes. Free version available. These things are going to be in your book, and you can find a number of them on the internet. Just go look at one. go look at Google. They'll tell you. AdAware, SpyBot, Spy Sweeper, Windows Defender, all of the things to get rid of adware. Adware is different than viruses. Although Windows 8, Microsoft combines the two. But Windows Defender is part of the antivirus now, I think, in Windows 8. So it actually will look at both. But you need to look at anti-spyware as well as antivirus software. Purge your restore points, hides and program files, restore points, store the system information. This is, make them go away if you don't need them, and then do a new restore point if everything's running fine. The other thing, again, looking at the startup programs, if you disable the executable for the virus, the file may still be there, but the virus isn't doing anything because it didn't start. And look at the whatever's running. Robert was saying, look at the list, look at the programs that are running, look at the processes that are running. Is there anything that really looks really stupidly odd? Excessive amount of memory, excessive amount of disk space or of processor. Take a look at those things. What the heck is that? And then go look it up. Google will tell you most of the time. Clean what's left over when we do these things. Lots of clean what's left over. Auto runs, and then clean the registry. CCleaner will do a registry clean for you. There is also, Microsoft, I don't know if they still have it, had one called RegClean. Does anybody know if it's still there? RegClean, and it was a Microsoft one. Do those clean up Internet Explorer. Go configure Internet Explorer so that it deletes the temp files when you close it if you're using it. All of them, you should delete the temp files when you close the browser. Lots of stuff. We've had things that show up as viruses in the central detection, and when you go to the machine to look for it, it's not there anymore because it probably was part of the temp files, and when it closed the browser, deleted the temp files, made the malware go away.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
RegClean is still around. These are what we're talking about. Look at the Task Manager, Cerberus Host, XC. These are the ones that just drive you crazy. And the newer Windows help you a little bit because it tells you what it's associated with. 7 of them, sometimes 7. I wish sometimes it was just 7. But those go with things. This is part of, everybody downloaded sysinternals, right? Process Explorer is part of the sysinternals. This is one that really will help you out with what's going on with it. But it is one of the things that are in sysinternals. All this stuff is free. Rootkits, and you're going to need the rootkit. You're going to need a rootkit removal program, and this is the user mode task, and we've looked at these things. The kernel mode, the files are stored on the hard drive. The kernel mode, rootkit intercepts data between the kernel and the files. User mode rootkit, it depends on what you've got here, but probably not going to be detected by a regular antivirus software. Anti-rootkit backlight F secure, and this is something that's kind of, they also have a scanner in here if you want to scan your own network. I think that's where it says, fsecure.com. Pretty good place to look for things. Repair blocks, enable system protection, educate when we do those things. What was this one? Always use a software firewall. And again, I told you that's going to be a function of what you want to do in your network. Users should not be administrator, should not have administrative authority. Not as big a deal in a domain, because everybody but administrators, you have to consciously make somebody an administrator, otherwise you're a regular user. The first user on your Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1, Windows Vista, Windows XP, the first user that you make is an administrative user. Windows Vista on up, yes, I know we love to hate that one, but Vista on up, the first user is an administrator user but does not run with administrative authority. Which means that if you go to the website with a virus, it can't automatically install it like it could in XP, because you were an administrator and didn't ask you any questions. Now it's going to say, did you do this? And hopefully you're going to educate your users to say no, those that have administrative authority. Those that don't have administrative authority, it's going to ask for credentials. And you've seen that. I think we've seen that when you try to install software. I've got to come around and put a credential in. That's the way you want your networks to be, so that you don't have users installing stuff willy-nilly. We tried, our untechnical instructors here at one time, oh, we got to have administrative authority, so we got to install this software so that we can try it out. And what they installed was a lot of viruses. Inadvertently, but they did. So be careful with your users. Everybody's got good intentions, but they don't always do what you want. Are there questions? We're a little bit over. Going once, going twice. Ready to take a break?